Good morning, friends. Good morning, sisters and brothers. And it's good to be here with you this morning. Good to have you here with me. It is morning. It's 9 o'clock on Wednesday, June 30th, last day of the month. Wow, did that go? That went fast. I think that month went very fast. And yes, we've gone past the longest day of the year. So it's all downhill from here, folks. Uh, anyway, I'm Brian. I'm the pastor here at Christ United Methodist Church. Good to be here with you. I love being the pastor here. I really do, and I love being able to take this time every day or almost every day. Excuse me, to read the Bible with you and to share some thoughts from time to time on what it means. And I know sometimes what I say is different than perhaps what you've heard in the past, and that's always a good thing. I think to hear something different is what helps us to grow and challenges us and helps us to understand things better in the long run. Fix my collar there. Um, so go ahead and check in. Oh, I see some folks are already doing that. So good morning, Cheryl, and good morning, Colleen. Good to have you both with me this morning, with us, with each other. And when you say stuff, it doesn't have to be to me, it could be to each other. Use the You can feel free to use that comment section to chat with each other. Just don't talk about the pastor. You can also send me texts, of course, if you're having any issues with that, or if you want to share something that's a little bit private, you can send me a text 570-351-1619. And that's, in case you have a question that you just don't want to ask in front of everybody. I know how that goes sometimes. Or if you have a joy or concern, especially a concern that you want to keep, a little personal, a little private, because I want to know what's on your hearts and on your minds, so I can be in prayer for you each and every day, each and every day. Hello, Maureen. I believe it's another day, another pool day for you. I'm sure. Uh, Good morning, Marcia. Good morning, Marilyn. Yeah, because it's another warm, sticky day out there today. My kind of weather. Although when I was driving the car yesterday and it read 99. I think it might have been a little bit off, but that was surprising. Because I think my phone said it was 94, but it was reading 99 in the car. Although it's supposed to be the outside temperatures, and so it's of course always hotter inside your vehicle. Anyway, I digress substantially, do I not? Today is Wednesday, and it is day 36 on our journey through the book of Genesis. Day 36 on our journey through the book of Genesis. And we are on chapter 48 for today. Since there are 50 chapters in Genesis, that means we have what? That's right. After today, we have 2 chapters to read, chapter 49 and 50. So tomorrow, Thursday, and that will be live. That'll be live at 9 o'clock. And then Friday will be chapter 50, and that will be a recording. And that'll be a recording, but it will go live Friday at 9. Then we'll be taking some time off. I believe just 1 week, and probably start up on July 5th. Maybe July 6th. Okay, I'll have to figure that out. And I'll let you know either tomorrow or Friday exactly when we're starting things up. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, John. Cindy, I know, is not with us, not watching with us this morning. She is with the crew up at Camp Penn, doing work up there today, which we had kind of expected it was going to be painting or something like that. But their bigger need right now is cleanup from last week's storm. So our crew is going to be picking up sticks, which is probably at least, if not harder than painting, because you're going to be bending over or squatting so many times. It's going to be physically tiring, that's for sure. Again, unfortunately, I can't be up there to participate in that. Um, got some visits that I need to accomplish today, as well as some other things. Anyway, so we're going to chapter 48. We're going to chapter 48. And let's get into it, shall we? Which the heading on this chapter is Jacob blesses Manasseh and Ephraim. There's a few things to point out going through this one. And actually, I'm going to point out one before we start. Okay, I'm going to point out one before I start to read. I think the author. I don't know if the author forgets what he wrote in chapter 47, which, just before this, or what. But this is another reason, another emphasis. Don't, that, because if you read it literally, don't. You're going to be confused by something. It's going to sound contradictory. Okay. Because in this chapter, and I'm going to point to it now, and then we'll read it in a bit. In this chapter, in verse 12, Joseph's sons are referred to as boys. And the whole, not only that description, not only that word, but the description of the scene makes it sound like they're these little boys that go up to their grandfather's knees, and they're easily moved around. But they definitely weren't, based on the rest of the story. So, the author is taking liberties with the story that he has created. He's doing it for poetic reasons, for dramatic purposes, and so again, go with the flow, so to speak. Don't read that literally, because the end of chapter 47, the author tells us that about Jacob, and that he died when he was 147. He said, after living 17 years in Egypt. After living 17 years in Egypt. Joseph's sons, if we go back just a couple more chapters, were born before Jacob got there. So the younger of the two, Ephraim, had to be at least 17 years old. Okay? It had to be at least 17 years old. Now, I Googled this chapter and asked for and for images. I Googled this chapter and for images, and they all come up the same, about the same. This is probably the closest one, but even these two look like, early teenagers at most. But they had to have been, if the story actually happened, so to speak, but they would have to be older than that. They wouldn't be boys. They would be men. Because again, Ephraim, the younger of the two, would have had to have been at least 17, but if we read back farther through the earlier chapters, probably much older, into his 20s, even though he's the younger of the two. So the author is taking liberties with the timeline within his own story, for a dramatic purpose. Okay, but I just want to point that out because it's like one more reason to not read these stories so literally, because they're stories. He's using this to tell, to make a point, to try to express something that otherwise explain something that may otherwise be unexplainable. Okay, so chapter 48. One day, not long after this, word came to Joseph, your father is failing rapidly. After what? After Joseph went to visit Jacob because he was sick, and he made him promise, don't leave my bones here, take them with you when you guys leave. Make sure that happens. So word came to Joseph, your father is failing rapidly. So Joseph went to visit his father, and he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. When Joseph arrived, Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to see you." So Jacob, or Israel, is probably the better translation there, gathered his strength and sat up in his bed. Jacob said to Joseph, "God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me. He said to me, I will make you fruitful and I will multiply your descendants. I will make you a multitude of nations, and I will give this land of Canaan to your descendants after you as an everlasting possession. Now, I am claiming as my own sons these two boys of yours, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born here in the land of Egypt before I arrived. They will be my sons, just as Reuben and Simeon are. But any child born to you in the future will be your own, and they will inherit land within the territories of their brothers, Ephraim and Manasseh. Pause. No, Jacob does a couple subtle things, or the author does a couple subtle things in that passage. All right. And if we look back to verse 1, Joseph took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Manasseh and Ephraim. They're listed there by birth order, Manasseh and Ephraim. When Jacob talks about them, he says Ephraim and Manasseh. He reverses their order. He lists the younger one first. The other thing he does, the author does, has Jacob do, he says, they will be my sons just as Reuben and Simeon are. Pause. Now, what to remember about Reuben and Simeon, if you look at your family tree and of their family tree, I guess I should say, your copy of their family tree, who were Reuben and Simeon? They were the two eldest of Jacob's sons. And they're the two that, although they're the eldest, remember, they're the ones that are kind of getting pushed aside, and Judah is taking prominence because of their past failures, perhaps, if for no other reason. And yet they're the two that he names as Manasseh and Ephraim, Ephraim and Manasseh being sons just like them. So he's doing two things. The author is doing two things. Jacob's doing two things with this little passage. Because of these names and the orders, he's reversing the order. He's almost it's like he's putting Ephraim as the elder of the two when he was the younger of the two. And he is going to consider them his sons, perhaps even in place of Reuben and Simeon. Okay? Ephraim and Manasseh. And they will inherit land within the territories of their brothers Ephraim and Manasseh. So we'll pause one more time, because what's he talking about, right? In Joshua, the second half of Joshua, is when the land of Canaan, after a whole bunch of battles, which again, don't read everything literally, because historically, archaeologically, most of that can't be proven. Land probably wasn't as vast as the stories tell us. Anyway, but in the second half of Joshua, after defeating all those people, all those big battles, taking over all the land is divided up by tribe. Okay, the land is divided up by tribe. Now, a couple of the tribes want their land to the west of the Jordan. You'd have to read Joshua to get all of this, right? And but they agree to fight. Excuse me, on the other side of the Jordan. But the land is divided up by tribes. So if you look at a map, which, sorry, I should have had one ready for you. If you look at a map of Israel in the tribal format, you'll see this section is Simeon, this section is Judah, this section is Reuben, this section is Dan, this section, etc., 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 Naphtali. You won't see Levi. You won't see Levi because Levi, remember, if you did Exodus with me, you'll remember that Levi and the Levites, the family of the Levites, were the ones that stood up with Moses at his command and slew a whole bunch of their brothers and sisters for the golden idols, for the golden calf, because of that, and they're going to be honored. They're going to become the priests. They become the priests because of that. So the story goes. So there they do not have land. Similar situation to what we just read, like yesterday, day before yesterday, as far as the Egyptian priests don't have land. Well, the Hebrew priests aren't going to own land either. They're allotted land, but they don't own it, and they're protected and all that other stuff, and they're supported by the other tribes with their offerings, etc., etc., etc. So you won't see land named for Levi. You also won't see the land of Joseph. It doesn't exist. But you will see land identified as Manasseh and a section of land attributed to the tribe of Ephraim. Okay, so Jacob makes these two virtually his sons. And the author, I don't know, is the author doing that to replace Levi and Joseph? And why is Joseph not given land? Don't really know. But Manasseh and Ephraim get his land, is how we could look at it. And in keeping with this story that I'm giving you a double portion, so his two sons get land in place of his one piece of land. Okay, does that make sense? I hope so. And actually, Manasseh gets two pieces of land. They often describe it as the half tribe of Manasseh gets one piece, and the other half tribe gets another piece. But still, so it's like the two sections, Manasseh and Ephraim in place of Joseph. Got it. Moving on, verse 7. I'm talking more than I thought I was going to about this. I guess there's more in this passage than I thought. Long ago, as I was returning from Padan Aram, Rachel died in the land of Canaan. We were still on the way, some distance from Ephrath, that is, Bethlehem. So with great sorrow, I buried her there beside the road to Ephraim. Oh, I'm sorry, to Ephrath. Getting mixed up with my E's this morning. Then Jacob looked over at the two boys. Are these your sons? He asked. Yes, Joseph told him. These are the sons God has given me here in Egypt. And Jacob said, bring them closer to me so I can bless them. Pause. Think back to much earlier in Genesis, whatever, chapter 15 or 20 or something like that. Somebody else was blessing a son, right? Let's see what happens next. Just remember that. Verse 10, Jacob was half blind because of his age and could hardly see. So Jacob brought the boys close to him, and Jacob kissed and embraced them. Then Jacob said to Joseph, I never thought I would see your face again, but now God has let me see your children too. Joseph moved the boys, who were at their grandfather's knees, and he bowed with his face to the ground. Then he positioned the boys in front of Jacob. With his right hand, he directed Ephraim toward Jacob's left hand, and with his left hand, he put Manasseh at Jacob's right hand. Pause, because the right hand is what you bless with. The right hand is the right hand is the good hand, left hand is the bad hand. So all you left-handers, the right hand is the good hand, the left hand is the bad hand. So you bless with the right hand. You bless with the right hand. If you see statues or paintings of Jesus, like lifting his hand, giving it's a sign, something like this. I'm not very good at the motion. He is offering a blessing. You will see it is his right hand that is raised. There is one statue that I know of, and it's in Washington, D.C., on the campus of Wesley Seminary, and Jesus is actually lifting his left hand in a blessing. I don't know if that's saying something about Washington or what the artist was saying on that, but it's the right hand. You bless with the right hand, not with the left. So he wanted to position him so that he put his right hand on them. Jacob's right hand. But Jacob crossed his arms as he reached out to lay his hands on the boy's head. He put his right hand on the head of Ephraim, though he was the younger boy, and his left hand on the head of Manasseh, though he was the firstborn. So Jacob, although it says he's half blind, he's able to see enough and he's smart enough to do what he wants to do. And he wants to offer his blessing to the younger son. Let's think back. Similar situation back, whatever, like I said, 25 chapters or whatever it was, when Jacob wanted to receive the blessing that was due to the older brother, that the older brother was supposed to get. He cheated, he deceived his father along with his mother's assistance to gain the blessing. And so the blessing fell upon the younger son. Now here, Jacob is intentionally offering his blessing to the younger son. He is reversing their status. He's reversing their status. He sees something in Ephraim, whatever. Maybe he just wants to, maybe he feels a connection to Ephraim because he is the younger of the two sons, and as was Jacob, and so he wants to kind of reverse things and give to him the same that was received by himself. Then he blessed Joseph. And said, "May the God before whom my grandfather Abraham and my father Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd all my life to this very day, the angel who has redeemed me from all harm, may he bless these boys. May they preserve my name and the names of Abraham and Isaac, and may their descendants multiply greatly throughout the earth." Pause. Sorry. Hope that didn't come out too loud on that. Notice what he's asking. He said, "May they preserve my name." That goes back to that. There is no, there's really no afterlife. The only way to have life beyond this life, the only way to have your name preserved is through descendants. And so he wants these boys to preserve his name beyond what he is in right now. Okay. Continuing, but Joseph was upset when he saw that his father placed his right hand on Ephraim's head. So Joseph lifted it to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. "No, my father," he said, "this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head." But his father refused. "I know, my son. I know," he replied. "Manasseh will also become a great people, but his younger brother will become even greater, and his descendants will become a multitude of nations." So Jacob blessed the boys that day with this blessing. "The people of Israel will use your names when they give a blessing. They will say, 'May God make you as prosperous as Ephraim and Manasseh.'" In this way, Jacob put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. Then Jacob said to Joseph, "Look, I'm about to die, but God will be with you and will take you back to Canaan, the land of your ancestors. And beyond what I have given your brothers, I am giving you an extra portion of the land that I took from the Amorites with my sword and bow. End of chapter 48. Part of that last piece, that line about an extra portion of land, the Hebrew is uncertain, and we don't exactly know what it means, what he's talking about. It's also translated as an extra ridge of land. So the Hebrew is uncertain, but it sounds like he's giving extra land as a extra inheritance to Joseph. So he's giving him a bigger portion of inheritance than he technically was due, being the second youngest son, and that is where we could surmise or whatever that's where that extra land comes, that he's able to give land to both Manasseh and Ephraim, whereas Jacob would say Ephraim and Manasseh. All right, friends, that's it for today for chapter 48. Whew, that actually went a little bit longer than I thought it would. I didn't realize I was going to have that much to say about that chapter. But I hope that helps to solidify that idea that, don't read it quite so literally, because sometimes things are there for a purpose other than literal. They're there for poetic, they're there for narrative. I think it also helps to point out, when you're reading the Bible, slow down, because when we read quick, we're going to miss a lot of that stuff. The change in order of the names could easily slip past us if we're reading at a normal pace. So when you slow down, you can observe more of those kind of things happening. All right. Anyway, my friends, I do pray that this time has been beneficial to you. I thank you again for taking time out of your day, this morning, this evening, and tomorrow, whenever it is you're watching. I pray that God has spoken to you through something I've said and read. I pray that you have learned something or relearned something that you forgot from years ago. As you go about your day, today, tomorrow, every day, make sure you're keeping those eyes and ears open, both the physical and the spiritual ones, so that you can see what our living, active, concerned, loving God is doing in your life and in the life of those around you. When you see it, say, "Thanks, Papa," then tell somebody about it, including me. Until tomorrow, my friends, be blessed and stay cool.